Hey guys, Greg Silverman here for CIOs and Bowties. A quick wrap up of all the news that you're all interested in, get a lot of like. Listen, I hope you're all safe and sound. In some of our previous episodes, we spoke about the mutation of the Wuhan virus, coronavirus, COVID-19, and we're certainly seeing that happening. So we're going to monitor that closely. But, you know, it looks like it's virus one. Hey guys, Greg Silverman for CIOs and Bowties here. I hope you're all safe and sound. You know, we spoke about the mutation of the COVID-19 virus, and it looks like that's what's happening. So please be safe and sound. A quick wrap up of news for the last week that everyone liked. Lovely articles. It talks about the Volcker rule being rescinded and unintended consequences. It comes at it from a bit of a VC fintech angle, but what I really want to speak about real quickly is you'll remember the Glass-Steagall Act, which was put in after the 1920s depression, that separated commercial banking from investment banking. It was rescinded in the 2000s, and they cite the reason that's why the 2008 financial crisis came about. And then the Volcker rule tried to re-implement Glass-Steagall, essentially making it impossible for banks to invest principal capital into deals and had to have their customers' hearts ahead of everything else. Volcker rules now been rescinded, so we're going to see where that goes. What's interesting now is that banks are allowed to reinvest in private equity funds as principals, hedge funds, venture capital, and credit funds. And of course, KKR and Apollo and all those mammoth private equity funds have built themselves off of private credit. So interesting to see where that goes. Next article, this is a great one. It's a nice graphic on it. It says how big tech makes their billions. The five big techs, which we'll go through in a second, collectively generated $900 billion in revenue in 2019. Interestingly enough, that's about the GDP of Saudi Arabia or Netherlands. So some quick facts there. Amazon is the giant, $281 billion in revenue. 7% comes from the Amazon Prime, so that's a recurring annual revenue. It's just the revenue stream is phenomenal. Apple, their AirPods generate about 6 to 12 billion in annual revenue, so that's larger than many other companies by itself. Google obviously gets 70% of their revenue from advertising. That's 162 billion. They don't. 70% of the 162 billion is from advertising. They don't mention the statistics, but YouTube is one of the largest components of that advertising, and so YouTube is definitely the size of many giant media companies. And finally, Microsoft at 126 billion, they're still earning 25% of their revenue off of Windows and Office. Can you believe it? And LinkedIn, which they own, generates 5.4% of their revenues. Another cool article, more on the soft skills, talks about effort versus effectiveness. You know, it's often thought that you have to work hard and intense to be effective. That might not be the case. It talks about busy work. Busy work is when you work hard and put in a lot of effort, but it doesn't go anywhere. It talks a little bit about memory recall. The best way to recall something is to close the book or the literature and to do active recall from your head. That's the best way to commit something to memory. Startups are hard, as if we didn't know that. They require patience. But at the same time, you've got cash burn, so you've got to balance your effort with your efficiency, your effectiveness quite clearly. The last thing they say, it's okay to be ignorant if you're willing to learn, but if you have a blind spot and you are what they call half efforts and not willing to learn, that is a recipe for disaster. Last article, best place to invest before the US dollar plunges. Talks about Stephen Roach, Morgan Stanley predicts that the dollar is going to fall about 35% in the next year, based on the Fed expanding its balance sheet by about $3 trillion. They do a bit of a regression analysis, and they find out the R squared. So the R squared is how much explanation the dollar is against another asset class. The R squared is 26.6% against international stocks versus 12.4% against gold, meaning international stocks are actually a better hedge against a falling dollar. The way to play it, they say, is through VEU, which is the Vanguard All World ex-US giant ETF. The golden dilemma, what they talk about is a study by Campbell Harvey, a finance professor from Duke University. And what it says basically, it says if gold is a great hedge against the dollar, the volatility of gold versus dollar should be higher than the volatility of gold versus another basket of currencies, which it is not. So the returns on gold are explained by other things besides just the dollar weakness. So international stocks, he says, is the way to go. But if you're expecting a dollar collapse, you probably want to diversify your hedges against the dollar. So he says you probably need gold nonetheless. Anyway, guys, that's a quick summation of the articles that are out there. Be safe. Peace and love. Greg, out.